The Galactic Coalition had ruled the stars for 10,000 years. They were powerful. They were old. They had seen civilizations rise and fall like waves on an ocean. 700 advanced species worked together under the Coalition's control. They had weapons that could destroy planets. They had ships that moved faster than light. They had technology that made other races seem like children playing with sticks and stones. When humans were discovered, the Coalition barely noticed at first. Earth was a small world orbiting an ordinary sun. The humans were new to space travel. They had only been exploring the stars for 50 years. In the eyes of the Coalition, they were nothing. They were less than nothing. They were a mistake that would be corrected. Captain Hayes stood in the observation deck of the human vessel called Endeavour. He watched Earth grow smaller as the ship moved deeper into space. The blue world became a point of light, then disappeared into the darkness. Had served in Earth's military for 23 years. He had fought in wars across his planet. He had seen what humans could do to each other, but he had never imagined what the stars held for his people. The message came from the Coalition 3 days later. It was not a greeting. It was not an offer of friendship. It was a demand. The Coalition gave humanity 1 month to join their organization or face destruction. The choice was simple: surrender or die. Ambassador Williams read the message in her office in New York. The walls around her were made of glass. She could see the city below, millions of humans going about their daily lives. They did not know what was coming. They did not know that their civilization was about to be tested in ways they could never imagine. Had spent her entire adult life studying alien species. She had learned their languages. She had studied their cultures. She had spent countless hours trying to understand how they thought. She knew the Coalition would not negotiate. She knew the Coalition would not compromise. The Coalition believed they were right and everyone else was wrong. General David Stone received the same message at military headquarters in Washington. He was the leader of Earth's defense forces. His job was to protect his people from threats. Now the greatest threat ever known had arrived at his door. Stone called an emergency meeting with the leaders of every nation on Earth. They sat in a secure room deep underground. The military leaders wanted to fight. The political leaders wanted to negotiate. The scientists wanted to find a way to understand the aliens. General Stone stood up and spoke to the assembled leaders. His voice was calm and firm. He said humans had 1 month to prepare. He said the Coalition would not stop. He said surrender meant the end of human freedom. He said fighting might mean death, but at least it would mean death with honor. Commander sat in the Defense Command Center beneath the Rocky Mountains. He had served in the military for 30 years. He had trained young soldiers. He had led operations across Earth. Now he was being asked to fight an enemy that had weapons he could barely understand. Looked at the reports coming in from space. The Coalition fleet was massive. There were 3,000 warships. Each warship was as big as a mountain. Each warship carried weapons that could destroy entire cities. The humans had no defense against such power. But was not a man who gave up easily. He started planning. He looked at Earth's geography. He looked at the places where humans could hide. He looked at the places where they could fight. The Coalition sent their best warriors to lead the attack. They were beings of pure logic. They could calculate battle strategies that took centuries to unfold. They sent their 12 most powerful minds. Each mind was worth thousands of ordinary warriors. They were masters of gravity. They could make objects heavier or lighter. They could crush mountains with a thought. They sent their best gravity warships. These ships could press down with the weight of 1,000 worlds. They were telepathic. They could read minds. They could control thoughts. They sent their strongest psychic warriors. These warriors could break a person's mind with a glance. Many other species sent their best soldiers and their best weapons. The Coalition had decided to teach humanity a lesson. They had decided to show all the young races what happened when you refused to obey the Coalition. No one believed humans would stand a chance. The reports were clear. Humanity had primitive technology. Humans had weak weapons. Humans had only been in space for 50 years. Against the greatest military force in the galaxy, humans should have fallen in hours. They should have been destroyed so completely that nothing would be left of them. Hayes received new orders. He was told to return to Earth. He was told to help with the defense. He was told to prepare for battle. As his ship moved back toward his home world, he thought about his family. He thought about his children. He thought about all the people on Earth who had no idea what was about to happen. Williams prepared her final message to the coalition. She asked for peace. She asked for understanding. She asked if there was any way to avoid war. The coalition never answered. They were already on their way. David Stone and met in the Defense Command Center. The two men had never fought an alien war before. No human had. But they were soldiers. They understood strategy. They understood that sometimes the weak must use tricks and speed to fight the strong. Stone looked at the map of Earth. He looked at the places where human defenses could be hidden. He looked at the places where human soldiers could fight and survive. He made a decision that would change everything. He said they would not surrender. He said they would not run. He said they would fight with every weapon they had. He said they would fight with every soldier available. He said they would fight until they could not fight anymore. The soldiers in the room understood what he meant. Some of them would die. Many of them would die. But at least they would die fighting. At least they would give their people a chance. The strategists began their calculations. They predicted victory in less than 3 days. They prepared to crush Earth's military bases. They prepared to invade human minds. The coalition fleet moved into position around Earth. In the cities and towns and villages of Earth, people prepared for war. Some were afraid. Some were angry. Some were ready. Hayes checked his weapons. Williams prepared her words. David Stone made his final plans, looked at his young soldiers. The war was coming. The greatest military force in the galaxy was about to attack the youngest space-faring species. Everyone believed the humans would lose. Everyone believed it would be quick. Everyone believed humans had no chance. Everyone was wrong. The coalition fleet arrived without any warning at all. 3,000 warships entered Earth's solar system. They blocked every escape route. They surrounded the planet from above. They cut off all ways to leave. The greatest military force in galactic history had come to destroy humanity. General watched from his command center. Screens showed the enemy ships moving into position. His officers were nervous. Some were afraid. Some were angry, remained calm. He had prepared for this moment. Now it was time to execute his plan. The first attack came exactly when predicted it would come. Energy weapons burned across the atmosphere. Red and blue beams cut through the sky. The coalition expected to see human defenses fall apart. They expected to destroy Earth's military in the first strike. Instead, something unexpected happened. The weapons hit empty ground. They hit abandoned buildings. They hit places where no humans were hiding. The coalition's attack destroyed nothing important because the humans had already moved everything. General had made a decision weeks earlier. He had moved the main defense bases deep underground. He had moved them into mountains. He had moved them under the ocean. He had hidden them where the coalition's weapons could not reach them. The coalition was wasting their attacks on empty targets. Captain watched from her gravity warship. She was confused. Her calculations said the humans should be dying. Her weapons were hitting targets, but no human soldiers were being killed. She ordered another attack. Again, the weapons hit empty places. Commander David Stone coordinated the human response from his underground command center. He sent a message to all human military units across the planet. The message was simple: attack the coalition ships, hurt them, kill them, make them understand that Earth would not fall without a fight. The first human fighters launched into the atmosphere. They were not advanced ships. They were not built to fight against alien warships. They were built for speed. They were built for maneuverability. They were built for fighting in ways the Coalition had never seen before. Young pilot Jackson Cross was 26 years old. 1 week earlier, he had been a student studying engineering. Now he was flying a fighter jet toward an alien warship. He was not trained for war. He had never killed anyone. But his home was under attack, and he was going to do what needed to be done. Jackson's fighter moved through the sky like a bird. It twisted and turned. It dived down and flew up. The alien weapons tried to follow, but they were too slow. The Coalition's weapons were designed for fighting other spaceships, not for fighting small, fast targets in the atmosphere. Jackson fired his missiles at the alien warship. The missiles were small compared to the Coalition weapons, but they were fast. One missile hit the warship's external defense system. Another hit a weapons platform. The warship was damaged. It was not destroyed, but it was damaged. More human fighters joined the attack. They came from all directions. They attacked from above and below. They attacked from north and south and east and west. The Coalition pilots had never fought enemies that used this kind of strategy. Their training said to attack from superior altitude. Their training said to fight in open space. The humans fought in the atmosphere. They fought where the aliens were not prepared to fight. Strategist performed complicated calculations. He analyzed the human attack patterns. He studied the human tactical decisions. He tried to understand why the humans were doing what they were doing. Everything they did seemed illogical. Everything they did seemed wrong. Yet somehow, it was working. General sent his soldiers into battle in ways the Coalition did not expect. He sent small teams to attack supply lines. He sent other teams to destroy Coalition communication centers. He sent still more teams to hit alien bases when the aliens were not expecting an attack. The Coalition could not defend everywhere at once. Captain Hayes led a dangerous mission deep into Coalition territory. He and his team were tasked with destroying a Coalition weapons platform in low Earth orbit. The mission was nearly impossible. The odds of success were very small. Many soldiers would probably die. Looked at his team before they launched. There were 20 soldiers with him, 20 men and women who had volunteered for this mission. All of them knew they might not come back. All of them knew they might die, and all of them were willing to fight anyway. The journey to the orbital weapons platform took 3 hours. The Coalition ships tried to stop them multiple times. Missiles were fired. Energy weapons were used. But his team were faster and smarter. They avoided the weapons. They used tricks and deception to get past the enemy defenses. When they reached the platform, everything happened very fast. His team fought their way inside. There were alien soldiers defending the platform. There were weapons and shields and defenses. But there were also his soldiers, fighting with the kind of determination that came from defending your home. The battle lasted 30 minutes. When it was over, the weapons platform was destroyed. Had lost 6 of his 20 soldiers, but the platform was no longer a threat to Earth. 12 other soldiers returned home knowing they had made a difference. Back in the command center, David Stone watched the progress of the human forces. After 5 days of fighting, something became clear. The Coalition was not as invincible as they seemed. They were strong, yes. They had better technology, yes. But they were not unbeatable. The Coalition's greatest weakness was their assumption of victory. They believed humans were weak. They believed they would win easily. They had not prepared for a fight. They had prepared for a slaughter. When the humans fought back hard, the Coalition's plan fell apart. Commander Vex attacked a human manufacturing facility in the American Midwest. He expected to destroy the humans' ability to make weapons. Instead, he found the facility had been abandoned. All the equipment was gone. The humans had already moved their production to other locations. Strategist performed new calculations. He analyzed all the data from the first week of fighting. His conclusion was clear. The humans would not surrender. The humans would not stop fighting. The coalition would need to use much more force than they had expected. Estimated they would lose at least 40% of their fleet before defeating humanity. This was shocking. No species had ever cost the coalition so many ships. No species had ever fought so hard for so long. The strategist made a report to the coalition leaders. The report said that humans were not like other species. Humans would fight even when they had no chance to win. Williams sent a message to the coalition. She asked if they wanted to negotiate. She asked if they could find a peaceful solution. The coalition did not answer. They ordered more warships to Earth. They ordered their strongest warriors to attack harder. The war continued. The coalition attacked. The humans defended. The coalition expected to win in 1 week. They expected to win in 2 weeks. But as each day passed, they realized the war would last much longer than they planned. And in the cities of Earth, millions of humans prepared for a long, hard fight. They had no idea if they would win. They had no idea if they would survive. But they were determined to try. They were determined to fight. They were determined to prove that humanity would not surrender to any power in the galaxy, no matter how strong that power might be. 3 weeks into the war, the coalition realized they had made a serious mistake. Humans would not surrender. Humans would not give up. Humans would keep fighting even when they were losing. This was something the coalition had never experienced before. Dr. Sarah worked in a field hospital hidden beneath the Scottish mountains. She had been a surgeon for 15 years before the war started. Now she worked 20-hour shifts treating wounded soldiers. Her hands shook from tiredness. Her mind was foggy from lack of sleep. But she kept working because soldiers kept arriving with injuries. The medical supplies were running low. The equipment was old and broken. But Sarah did her job anyway. She fixed broken bones. She treated infections. She saved lives with tools that were barely good enough. A coalition doctor would have used advanced technology and machines. Sarah used her hands and her knowledge and her experience. One young soldier arrived at the hospital with burns across his body. Coalition weapons had burned him. His skin was damaged. His pain was terrible. A coalition doctor would have used a machine to heal the damage. Sarah did not have a machine. She used medicine and bandages and time. She kept the soldier clean. She kept the infection away. She talked to him when he was scared. 3 weeks later, that young soldier left the hospital and went back to fighting. He walked on his own 2 legs. He was healed. Sarah had done something that the coalition considered impossible. She had saved a life with primitive tools and basic knowledge. General made a bold decision. He would not just defend. He would attack. He would send human forces into coalition territory. He would destroy coalition supply lines. He would attack coalition bases. He would make the war costly for the aliens. The first human offensive started in the middle of the night. 3,000 human soldiers attacked a coalition forward base at the same time. The coalition was surprised. They had not expected humans to attack. They had expected humans to cower behind their defenses. The battle was fierce and bloody. Human soldiers fought coalition warriors. The coalition had better weapons and better training. But the humans had something the coalition did not have. The humans were fighting to protect their homes. The humans were fighting to save their families. The humans were willing to die. By the time the sun came up, the coalition base was destroyed. The coalition lost 800 soldiers. The humans lost 300 soldiers. The coalition warriors were shocked. They had never seen soldiers fight like this. They had never seen soldiers willing to give their lives to protect something they loved. Young soldier Jackson Cross had grown from a student engineer into a dangerous warrior. He had flown over 100 combat missions. He had damaged 12 coalition warships. He had shot down coalition fighters. He had become one of the best pilots in the human military. Jackson was not special. He was not genetically superior to other humans. He was not trained in any special way. He was just a human who had chosen to fight. and that choice had made him dangerous. The coalition tried a new strategy. They would attack human population centers. They would force the humans to surrender by threatening to kill civilians. This strategy had worked on other species. Other species would surrender rather than see their children killed. The coalition attacked a human city. They destroyed buildings. They killed people. They made the humans understand what would happen if they did not surrender. The humans did not surrender. Instead, they became more determined to fight. They moved their families to safer places. They organized civilian defense groups. They worked together as never before. When the coalition killed human children, every human became more willing to fight. Every human became more willing to die. Commander David Stone received reports of the attack. He made a broadcast to all humans across Earth. He said the coalition wanted them to surrender from fear. He said humans would not surrender from fear. He said every person who died would be avenged. He said the war would continue until humanity was free or humanity was destroyed. David's words spread across the planet. In cities and towns and villages, humans listened to their commander. They understood what he meant. They understood they had to choose. They could surrender and lose their freedom, or they could fight and possibly lose their lives. Most humans chose to fight. Strategists performed new calculations. The numbers were now clear. To defeat humanity completely, the coalition would need to lose 100,000 soldiers. This was unacceptable. No species was worth such a price. But the coalition leaders were proud. They did not want to admit defeat. They did not want to say that an inferior species had stopped them. They ordered more attacks. They ordered more ships to Earth. Captain Hayes led another dangerous mission. This time, he was ordered to destroy a coalition command ship. This was the most important ship in the entire fleet. If they could destroy this ship, they would cut off the coalition's ability to coordinate their forces. Selected his best soldiers. He trained them for 1 week. They studied the design of the coalition ship. They learned the layout of every corridor and room. They prepared for battle in a way that humans had learned from thousands of years of fighting each other. The attack came in the middle of a coalition attack. While thousands of coalition weapons were hitting Earth's team moved toward the command ship. They used speed and deception. They attacked when the coalition was not expecting it. They moved through areas the coalition thought were safe. When S team reached the command ship, there were 200 coalition soldiers defending it. Had only 40 soldiers. The odds were terrible. Any logical being would have said they had no chance. Ordered the attack anyway. The battle lasted 6 hours, lost 20 of his 40 soldiers, but he destroyed the command ship's main computer core. The ship could no longer coordinate the coalition fleet. The coalition forces became disorganized. They stopped attacking in a unified pattern. They started making mistakes. In the command center, General saw his chance. He ordered every human military unit to attack at the same time. The coalition fleet, without proper leadership, suffered terrible losses. In 1 day, the coalition lost 500 warships. Commander Vex submitted a report. He said the humans were too costly to defeat. He said the coalition should consider negotiating. The coalition leaders were angry. They wanted total victory, but the numbers were clear. They could not win. Williams sent another message to the coalition. This time, she did not ask for surrender. She asked for a ceasefire. She said humans would stop fighting if the coalition would stop attacking. She said humans would not surrender, but they could live in peace. The coalition did not answer immediately. They thought about the war. They thought about their losses. They thought about what it meant that they could not defeat a young species like humanity. After 3 days of silence, the coalition sent their answer. They would stop the attack. They would retreat from Earth. But they said humans would never be true equals to the coalition. They said humans would always be beneath other civilizations. General David Stone heard the message. He heard the coalition's words. He knew the coalition was wrong. Humanity had proven they were equals. Humanity had proven they could fight. Humanity had proven that a young species with heart and determination could stand against the greatest military force in the galaxy. The war was over. Earth had won. The news spread through the galaxy faster than any ship could travel. Every species heard the story. The coalition had attacked Earth. The coalition had sent their best warriors. The coalition had sent their most powerful ships, and the coalition had lost. Humans had won. The news changed everything across the stars. Species that had accepted coalition rule for thousands of years began to wonder. If humans could resist, why could they not resist too? If a young species could fight back, what about older species with more knowledge and more power? They were an older species. They had been under coalition control for 3,000 years. They had always obeyed. They had never fought back. But after hearing about humanity's victory, the leaders made a new decision. They would seek their freedom too. They were a bent species that had always dreamed of leaving the coalition. Now they had hope. If humans could win, they could win too. They began preparing for independence. They began planning how to break free from coalition control. Even powerful species like they began to question the coalition. There were intelligent beings who had always believed they needed the coalition. But if the coalition could lose to humans, maybe the coalition was not as necessary as everyone thought. Ambassador Williams became the most famous human in the galaxy. Other species wanted to meet her. They wanted to understand how humans had won. They wanted to learn the secret of human victory. Gave speeches to alien delegations. She explained that humans had no special technology. She explained that humans had no special powers. She explained that humans had only one advantage. Humans were willing to fight for what they believed in. Humans were willing to die rather than surrender. Humans refused to accept that victory was impossible. Species across the galaxy listened too. They heard her words. They understood what she meant, and they started to change how they thought about the coalition. Young fighter pilot Jackson Cross became a hero across the galaxy. He had flown 130 combat missions. He had damaged more coalition ships than any coalition warrior. He had become the symbol of human courage and determination. Jackson received offers from every major species in the galaxy. They wanted him to teach their pilots. They wanted him to study his fighting methods. They wanted to know how a human could resist telepathic attack. Jackson refused all the offers. He wanted to help build something for humanity. He wanted to create a military force that could protect Earth forever. He wanted to make sure that no power in the galaxy would ever think they could attack humanity again. General David Stone was promoted to Admiral of the entire human space force. He was now in charge of all human military operations. His first order was to build new ships. His second order was to train more soldiers. His third order was to build defenses that would make Earth safe from any attack. Stone knew that the coalition could change their mind. Stone knew that the coalition might try again. So he worked day and night to prepare Earth for another possible attack. 3 months after the war ended, the first alien delegation landed on Earth. They were from the species. They came to discuss an alliance that was not controlled by the coalition. General Stone greeted them personally. He showed them respect. He showed them that humans saw other species as equals, not as subjects to control. The meeting was successful. The Inhumans agreed to become trading partners. They agreed to protect each other. They agreed to build a relationship based on respect, not on domination. More delegations arrived from other species. Some came to negotiate trade. Some came to negotiate military alliances. Some came just to understand the humans who had stood against the entire coalition. The coalition tried to fix the situation. They offered humans advanced technology. They offered humans resources and power. They asked humans to stop helping other species gain independence. The Coalition wanted humans to accept a special place in the galactic hierarchy, a place below the Coalition but above other species. Humans refused. Admiral Stone made a clear statement. He said humans would not accept any system that placed some species above others. He said humans had learned that power did not give the right to rule. He said humans would help any species that wanted to gain freedom from Coalition control. The Coalition was shocked by this decision. They had offered humans great power. They had offered humans wealth. They had assumed humans would want to join the upper levels of galactic society, but humans had refused. Humans wanted equality for all species, not dominance for themselves. Dr. Sarah was called to speak before the Coalition Council. She was asked about human medical practices. The Coalition doctors wanted to understand how she had healed wounded soldiers with such primitive equipment. Sarah explained that humans had spent thousands of years learning how to heal the body. She explained that understanding the human body was important. She explained that sometimes a doctor had to adapt to the tools they had available. She explained that compassion was as important as technology. The Coalition doctors listened. Some of them were shocked. Some of them were confused. But some of them understood that they had something to learn from this young human doctor. News reports across the galaxy told the story of humanity again and again. The rebellion was successful. They gained their independence. They began negotiating their own freedom from Coalition control. And all of these species said the same thing. Humanity had shown them it was possible to resist. Hayes was made a hero in every port across the galaxy. Young aliens wanted to meet him. They wanted to shake his hand. They wanted to know what courage felt like. Found himself traveling between worlds, talking about his experiences in the war. But never wanted to be a hero. He wanted to help his people. He wanted to make sure that the sacrifice of all the soldiers who died in the war would be remembered. He wanted to make sure that their deaths meant something. Jackson Cross and Hayes became friends despite their different ranks. Jackson was a fighter pilot, was a military commander, but they had both fought in the war. They had both seen humans die. They had both learned what it meant to fight for something greater than yourself. Together, they worked with Admiral Stone to plan Earth's future. They knew the Coalition had been weakened by their loss. They knew other species had gained hope from humanity's victory. They knew the galactic order was changing. The galaxy would never be the same. The invincible Coalition had been defeated by a young species. And now, across 1,000 worlds, beings who had never had hope were starting to believe they could be free. And it had all started with humans who refused to surrender. Humans who refused to accept that they were weak. Humans who refused to believe that any power in the galaxy was strong enough to make them kneel. 1 year after the war ended, Earth hosted the first Human Galactic Council conference. Representatives from over 400 species came to Earth. They traveled through space. They landed in cities across the planet, and they gathered to discuss a new future for the galaxy. Ambassador William stood on a stage in front of thousands of alien beings. This stage was built in the center of what had been a Coalition military base on Earth. The base had been destroyed during the war. Now it was a place of peace and discussion. Looked out at the gathering. She saw the with their pure logical minds. She saw the with their power over gravity. She saw the with their telepathic abilities. She saw hundreds of other species from across the galaxy, and she saw hope on their faces. Spoke about the war. She did not talk about human victory. She talked about human loss. She talked about the millions who had died. She talked about the cities that had been destroyed. She talked about the families that had been torn apart. She talked about the cost of standing up to the Coalition. She explained that humans did not want to fight. Humans wanted peace, but humans would not surrender their freedom. Humans would not accept rule by a power that did not respect them. Humans would die before they would accept slavery. Her words were simple, but they were powerful. Across the galaxy, beings who had never heard anyone speak like this began to understand what meant. Freedom was worth fighting for. Justice was worth dying for. Captain Hayes now commanded the Endeavour as a science vessel. It was no longer a warship. It moved between galactic powers, gathering knowledge and building friendships. The ship had been refit to study new worlds and new civilizations. Its mission was to spread understanding, not to spread war. The Endeavour visited the celebrated their new freedom. Their leaders thanked humanity for helping them break free from coalition control, accepted their thanks with respect. Young pilot Jackson Cross received an invitation to lead the coalition's new pilot training program. The coalition wanted their pilots to learn how humans fought. The coalition wanted to understand human tactics. Jackson was offered power and position and great wealth. Jackson refused. Instead, he worked with Admiral David Stone to create the Earth Defense and Diplomatic Service. This organization had two purposes. The first purpose was to keep Earth safe. The second purpose was to help other species gain freedom if they wanted it. The new organization was revolutionary. It was not controlled by the coalition. It was not controlled by any single powerful species. It was controlled by humans and the species that joined them, and every species had an equal voice. General retired from military service. He had served in the war. He had made the plans that allowed humans to resist. He had saved thousands of lives through his decisions. Now he wanted to teach others what he had learned. Became an instructor at the Galactic Strategic Institute. This school was created to teach military leaders from all species. Coalition warriors came to study under him. Strategists came to learn. Even warriors came to understand how had defeated them. His most important lesson was always the same. Would tell his students that humans had won not because they had better weapons or better minds. Humans had won because they understood something important. They understood that the most powerful force in the galaxy was not technology. It was the will of a people willing to fight for something they believed in. Dr. Sarah continued her medical work. Now she trained alien doctors. She taught them human techniques for healing against impossible odds. She taught them that every life was worth fighting for. She taught them that compassion was not weakness. Compassion was strength. They sent their best doctors to study with Sarah. They sent medical students. They sent researchers. And all of them learned that the most important medical tool was not a machine. It was a doctor's willingness to care about their patient. The coalition tried to rebuild their power. They offered other species special treatment. They offered advanced technology. They offered resources, but they could not rebuild the fear that had once held the galaxy together. Too many species had learned what humanity had taught them. Fear was not the same as respect. Hayes and Jackson Cross became symbols of human achievement, but they did not want to be symbols. They wanted to be friends to the beings they met. They wanted to help build a galaxy where all species could be equal. Admiral Stone made a decision about Earth's future. He said Earth would build a powerful military. But Earth's military would not be used for conquest. It would be used for defense. It would be used to protect freedom. It would be used to help other species who were being oppressed. 1 year after the conference, the coalition was weaker than they had been in 10,000 years. Many species had left to gain independence. Many species were negotiating their freedom. The power structure of the galaxy had changed forever. The change had started with humans, a young species that had refused to surrender, a young species that had believed they could win even when the odds were terrible, a young species that had decided that freedom was worth any price. Williams was offered a position as the leader of a new galactic council. This council would have representatives from all species. No single species would have the power to dominate others. All decisions would be made through discussion and agreement. Accepted the position. She understood it was important. She understood it would be hard work. But she also understood that humans had given the galaxy something precious. Humans had shown that another way was possible. The old coalition leaders were angry. They said the new Galactic Council was chaos. They said that without the coalition, the galaxy would fall apart. But the opposite was true. The galaxy became stronger when power was shared. The galaxy became better when all species had a voice. Years passed. The memory of the war remained fresh in everyone's mind. The memory of human courage remained. The memory of how a young species had stood against the greatest power in the galaxy and refused to fall. New human children were born. They grew up hearing stories about the war. They grew up knowing that their species had stood against overwhelming power and had won. They grew up understanding that courage and determination were more valuable than weapons or technology. Across the galaxy, other young species heard the same stories. They heard about humans. They heard about how humans had refused to surrender, and they understood something important. If humans could win, if a young species could stand against the greatest power in the galaxy, then anything was possible. Earth became a symbol of hope throughout the galaxy. Ships came from thousands of worlds to see the place where humans had stood and fought. They came to understand the species that had changed everything. The Coalition's greatest warriors had come to destroy humanity. They had brought the most powerful weapons in the galaxy. They had brought their best soldiers and their greatest minds, and none of them had returned home in victory. Because humans had refused to surrender, because humans had fought with everything they had, because humans believed that freedom was worth dying for, because humans understood that sometimes the weak can defeat the strong if they have courage and determination. And because in the end, the galaxy learned a lesson it had forgotten in 10,000 years. The greatest power in the universe is not weapons or technology. The greatest power is the human spirit, the human determination to be free, the human willingness to fight for what is right, the human courage to stand against any darkness, no matter how strong that darkness might be.